Ever scroll through social media and think, wait a minute, is that even true?
Happens all the time, right?
Yeah, or like get into those debates where you and a friend just can't agree on what's real, you know?
Ugh, tell me about it.
Well, today we are diving deep into how we even know what we know.
Like, how do we even know anything for sure?
Yeah, it's a whole area called epistemology, and honestly, it's more relevant now than ever.
For sure.
And to guide this deep dive, we've got this super interesting book.
Oh yeah, this one's great.
It's called
Which, for everyone out there, translates to, how do you know what you know?
And it's by Monica and Ovidio Pinea.
They really get into epistemology through the lens of NLP New Code.
So get ready, because we're going to uncover some wild stuff about how like our senses and even our bodies actually shape what we believe is true.
It's not always what you'd think.
Okay, so right off the bat, the authors hit us with this powerful analogy from Alfred Korzybski.
He said, the map is not the territory.
Mm.
It's like, imagine you've got a map of your neighborhood.
Got him.
But no matter how detailed that map is, it's still just a representation.
Right, it's not like actually walking down the street.
Exactly. And if you try to navigate just using that map, you might miss some important stuff.
Like what if there's a little blue square on the map for a pool?
But it turns out to be, like, a massive water park in real life.
Oh, that's a good one. So our mental models, our beliefs, those assumptions we make?
It's like there are maps, useful but sometimes misleading.
Right. Especially if we don't update them.
Or if we take them too literally.
Okay, so then how do we make our maps more accurate?
Right. I mean, we rely on our senses for information.
Right, exactly. That's how we experience the world.
Well, about those senses.
Yeah.
You know how we always hear about the 5 senses?
Yeah, sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing.
Well, turns out there are more than just those 5.
Wait, what?
Yep. Beyond those, we also have proprioception and interoception.
Okay, those sound a little more complex.
Maybe a little, but they're actually pretty easy to understand.
Okay, good.
Think about when you close your eyes and touch your nose.
Okay, doing it now.
You know where your hand is without seeing it, right?
Yeah.
That's proprioception.
So like knowing where your body is in space.
Exactly. And that's separate from your basic 5 senses.
Whoa, okay. I'm kind of mind blown. What about interoception?
So interoception is like your internal radar.
Oh, interesting.
It's your sense of your internal state, your heartbeat, that gut feeling, even knowing when you're hungry.
Huh. So it's like feeling those internal signals.
Exactly. It's all about sensing what's happening inside.
Okay, so we have all these signals from our senses, both internal and external.
Right, but then what?
Yeah, like how do we make sense of it all? How do we process it?
That's where language comes in.
Oh.
So language can be both super helpful and also a bit of a trap.
Oh, how so?
Well, the book talks about how we form words, starting with the ones directly tied to our senses.
Like red or cold.
Exactly. Or salty or loud. These sensory words are easier to grasp.
Yeah, because we can like directly experience them.
Right. But then there are those bigger ideas.
Like what?
Like justice or freedom, even love.
Right, more abstract concepts.
Yeah, and forming words for those gets way more interesting.
How so?
Because abstract words aren't tied to a single sensory experience. They're built on layers of other ideas and interpretations.
Oh, I see.
And that's where things can get a little fuzzy, you know.
So it's like back to that map analogy.
Exactly. Abstract words are like those tiny symbols on the map.
That don't quite capture the whole picture.
Right. They don't always represent the complexity of the real thing.
So how do we avoid getting lost in all the abstract stuff then?
How do we make sure those words are grounded, meaningful?
Yeah, how do we know we're even talking about the same thing?
Well, there's this great story in the book about a merchant and a monk who were both searching for things.
Things. Okay, I'm intrigued.
The merchant, he was focused on possessions, you know, like material stuff.
Makes sense.
For a merchant.
But the monk, he was searching for knowledge and enlightenment.
Ah, so totally different ideas of what things even means.
Exactly. And that highlights how the same word can have vastly different meanings.
Depending on our own map of reality.
Right. We might think we're on the same page, but our internal dictionaries are totally different.
It's like we're speaking different languages almost.
In a way, yeah. And that's why being aware of those abstract words is so important.
And maybe trying to ground them in more concrete experiences.
Exactly. The more we can connect those abstract ideas to tangible things, the less room there is for misinterpretation.
So we're getting info from our senses, interpreting it through language, but then also sometimes getting tripped up by those abstract terms.
Right. It's a lot to juggle.
It is. So is there anything else that helps shape our understanding besides our senses and language?
Well, the book dives into something called output vehicles. It's pretty fascinating.
Output vehicles. Okay, I'm all ears. So it's this idea that our bodies are actually communicating information all the time.
Wait, hold on. Without us even knowing it.
Yep. It's happening whether we're aware of it or not.
Okay, that's wild.
Yeah.
So what are some examples of these output vehicles then?
Well, remember when we were talking about blushing or sweating when we're nervous?
Yeah.
Those are actually chemical changes in our body that signal our emotional state.
Right. So other people can kind of read those signals.
Exactly. They're picking up on our body's communication.
So those are output vehicles. What about like facial expressions and body language?
Those count too. The way we stand, our gestures, even our tone of voice.
It's like our body's having a conversation even when our mouth isn't moving.
Exactly. We're constantly sending out information, whether we intend to or not.
Whoa, okay, so if our bodies are communicating all this stuff, then what about things we create in the world? Like, could those be output vehicles too?
You're catching on quick. Think about art, fashion, the way we decorate our homes. All those choices we make can be seen as expressions of our internal maps of reality.
So it's like our creations become a language in themselves.
Precisely. They reveal our values, beliefs, aesthetics, even unconscious biases.
So it's a way to share our inner world with the outside world.
Exactly. It's externalizing those internal maps we've been talking about.
This is blowing my mind. It's like we're not just taking in information, we're constantly broadcasting our own interpretation back out.
That's what makes epistemology so fascinating. It's not just about how we know things, but how we shape and share that knowledge with the world.
Right. And that act of sharing then influences how other people know things.
It's a constant feedback loop.
Whoa. Okay, so we've covered a lot. Senses, language, bodies as communicators, even our creative output.
A lot to think about for sure.
It is. Is there one key takeaway from all of this so far?
The biggest one is that our understanding of the world is never finished. It's not static, it's a dynamic process. We're always learning, growing, updating those internal maps.
So it's like we never truly arrive at the final destination.
Exactly. It's all about the journey of understanding.
Okay, I love that. So then how do we embrace that journey? How do we make sure it's heading in the right direction?
That's a great question, and it's exactly what we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. Can't wait to dig in further.
Me neither. It's all about being aware of those maps we've been building up, right?
And the ones based on our senses, language.
Our bodies, even the stuff we create.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got to refine those maps.
Keep them as accurate as possible.
So you mentioned earlier how those abstract words can get tricky because they're so open to interpretation.
Right, right.
How can we use language more effectively so we're all on the same page?
It's all about being more conscious of those abstract words.
Okay.
And trying to ground them in those concrete experiences.
So instead of just saying, I feel good.
Right. Be more specific.
I feel energized after that run, or I feel content just hanging out with friends.
Exactly. The more specific, the less room for those misunderstandings.
Like adding more detail to our maps so others can actually follow along.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a good one. What else can we do?
Remember when we talked about Karl Popper's model of scientific research?
With the falsification? Yeah.
We can actually apply that to our everyday lives, too.
Wait.
Instead of just looking for info that confirms our beliefs.
Which is so easy to do.
It is. But we should be actively looking for evidence that might challenge those assumptions.
So it's like being open to being wrong.
Yeah, and I know that can be tough.
They can be. Especially when we feel strongly about something.
For sure. But it's worth it, trust me.
Okay, how so?
Well, when we question our beliefs, we open ourselves up to those new insights.
And a deeper understanding of the world.
Exactly. Plus, it helps us avoid those moments where we realize, oh, I've been holding onto the wrong map for way too long.
Those uh-oh moments.
Exactly. Nobody wants those.
Okay, so this whole idea of challenging assumptions, it makes me think about all the information we get every day.
It's from everywhere, right?
Yeah, news articles, social media, even conversations.
It's overwhelming.
It is. So how do we navigate it all? How do we know what to trust?
It's almost like being a detective.
Oh, I like that.
You got to look for clues, piece together the story.
Okay, so when we see a news article or a social media post,
ask yourself, where is this coming from? Could there be any bias? Does this align with other things I know to be true?
So using those critical thinking skills.
Right. We become more discerning, We can better filter the information.
This is making me feel a lot more empowered, actually.
It should. It means we're not just passive receivers of information.
Yeah.
We're actively shaping our own understanding.
And that understanding is like a lifelong project.
Actually, It's not about reaching some final destination.
It's the journey.
The journey of continuous learning and growth.
Okay, I love that. This deep dive has been amazing.
Glad you're enjoying it.
So far, we've learned that our understanding is shaped by so many things.
More than we might realize.
Our senses, language, our bodies, even the things we create.
It's all connected.
And we've talked about strategies to make our maps more accurate so we can navigate the world with more awareness.
Being intentional about how we know what we know.
Exactly.
So how do we make sure that journey of understanding is, heading in the right direction?
Right. Like, how do we keep refining those maps and making sure they're as accurate as we can get them?
It's about being aware, aware of those maps we've been creating based on everything we've been talking about.
Our senses, language, bodies, all that stuff.
Exactly. And we were talking about how abstract words can be kind of slippery, right?
Yeah, they're so open to interpretation. So how do we use language more effectively? Like, how can we make sure we're really understanding each other?
One way is to try and ground those abstract words in more concrete experiences.
Okay, so instead of just saying, I feel good.
Right, give it more context. Say, I feel energized after that run, or I'm so content just hanging out with my family.
So being more specific.
Exactly. Less room for those misunderstandings,
Like giving more detail on the map.
Right, so others can actually follow along.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other strategies we can use?
Remember we talked about Karl Popper
That's
and
good.
that idea of falsification in scientific research?
Yeah, trying to prove things wrong instead of just looking for confirmation.
Exactly. Well, we can apply that to our everyday lives too.
Wait, really?
Instead of just seeking out information that confirms our beliefs.
Which is so easy to do, by the way.
It is. But we should be actively looking for stuff that might challenge our assumptions,
So being open to being wrong.
Basically. I know. It's not always easy.
It's tough. Especially when you feel really strongly about something.
Oh, for sure. But it's so worth it.
Okay, I'm trusting you. But why? What makes it so worth it?
Because when we question our beliefs, it opens us up to new insights.
And a deeper understanding of the world.
Exactly. Plus, it can help us avoid those moments where we realize we've been holding on to, the wrong map for way too long.
Ugh, those moments.
Yeah, nobody wants those.
Definitely not. Okay, so this whole thing about challenging assumptions, it makes me think about all the information that's constantly coming at us.
From all directions, right?
Yeah. News, social media, even just chatting with friends and family.
It's a lot to process.
It really is. So how do we filter through all that? How do we even know what to trust anymore?
It's almost like being a detective,
Ooh, I like that analogy.
You gotta look for clues, piece together the story.
So when we see a news article or a social media post,
ask yourself, where is this coming from? What's the source? Is there any bias? Does this align with other things I know to be true?
so critical thinking is key.
It's essential. It helps us be more discerning, better filter that constant stream of information.
This is honestly making me feel a lot more empowered, just knowing we have that power.
Exactly. It means we're not just passively taking in information, right?
Right is actively shaping our understanding.
And that understanding is like a lifelong project, right?
It never really ends. It's not about reaching some final destination. It's about the journey.
The journey of understanding.
Exactly. Continuous learning and growth.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible. We've learned so much about how our understanding of the world is shaped.
By our senses, language, our bodies, even our creativity.
And we've explored some really practical strategies for refining our maps of reality.
So we can navigate this world with more awareness, more intention.
And hopefully a little more confidence too, right?
Absolutely. Because the more we understand how we know what we know, the better equipped we are to make sense of it all.
To live lives that are both meaningful and informed. So to everyone listening, now that you're more aware of those forces that are shaping your understanding,
what steps will you take to create a more accurate and empowering map of your own reality?
Keep questioning, keep exploring, and as always, thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.